Hello again. Crowds gathered at Celtic Park in the Scottish city of Glasgow on Monday, but not for a football match. Supporters were handing over a cheque for £176,000 to two Palestinian charities. But the story of the fundraiser goes back to last August, when Celtic fans made headlines during a match against an Israeli team. They flooded the stadium with a sea of Palestinian flags. Following the display, the Union of European Football Associations, UEFA, which opposes any political messages at sporting events, fined the club more than £8,000. But even that did not deter the Celtic fans. A supporters group called the Green Brigade launched the Match the Fine for Palestine appeal. The money raised exceeded all hopes, with the funds going to the Laji Cultural Centre in the Ada refugee camp and medical aid for Palestinians. Representatives of the charity spoke to RT about what the initiative means to them and for Palestine.
The impact for that money, it's mean a lot for us as a Palestinian, because this is coming from the heart of the people. It's coming from over than 16,000 people, and that's people who know that money is going to a refugee camp and to keep the people struggling under the occupation. These people, they know the reality in Palestine, and they are against the occupation.
I think the more important message is to the world at large, which is that when there is oppression and you keep quiet, you take the side of the oppressor. And what the Celtic fans were saying was that we're not prepared to sit quietly and watch an Israeli team as if life was going on as normal, when the situation in the West Bank is very far from normal.
Austria's coalition government has promised to introduce a new package of policies. Among the initiatives is a ban on Muslim full-face veils.
We believe in an open society that is also based on open communication. Full-body veils in public spaces stand against that and will therefore be prohibited.
Well, a ban on such apparel is not the only measure being considered. Restrictions on civil servants wearing religious symbols and curbs on access to the labour market for migrants from Eastern Europe are also being mulled. The coalition want to win back voters from the Freedom Party, whose candidate Norbert Hofer came close to winning Austria's presidential election last month. Well, Alexander Markovits from the Generation Identity movement says this is a sign of the government's desperation.
We have a huge problem with Islamization in Austria. The government has changed its stance because there's on the one hand a huge public unrest in Austria about Islamization and mass migration, and on the other hand, because of this unrest, the FPÖ is getting more and more percent in the surveys for the next elections, and therefore the government has to adapt. On the one hand, demands made by FPÖ, made by the identitary movement, and especially and foremost demands made by the population in order to stay in power. So yeah, the government has to act in order to be still a political relevant factor in Austria after the next elections. Yeah, so it's actually a measure of desperation.
Well, recently, Europe has witnessed the rise of anti-establishment politicians. France's presidential candidate Marine Le Pen and her Front National party have almost doubled in approval ratings in a matter of a couple of years. And in the Netherlands, Geert Wilders from the Party of Freedom has the support of a third of the country's citizens, while 13% of Germans say they would vote for the Alternative for Germany party. And indeed, this type of rhetoric is also coming from what many would have called moderate European politicians. The Prime Minister of the Netherlands, just weeks before a general election, said that people should leave the country if they reject Dutch values. And last month, the German Chancellor openly called for a ban on full-face veils in the country. That is despite having repeatedly criticised previously what she sees as populist politicians playing to voters' concerns.
The full-body veil must be banned in our country wherever it is legally possible. We guarantee that Islam can be practiced freely in Germany.
I think it reflects a general mood in Europe because since the huge disaster of Angela Merkel's refugees welcome and wir schaffen das, we're going to make it, there has been a huge rise in, let's call it, populist and especially anti-immigration policies. So the ban of the headscarf is just one step in the right direction. And yeah, they actually have definitely to do more to calm down the public, which is already very angry.
This is RT International. I'll be back in around 35 minutes' time with more global news. But in the meantime, an investigation into the dangerous chemicals that are finding their way into children's food.